and welcome back to Explore with NTV. I'm Nadira and I hope that you're all very excited to learn and discover a new educational topic. So Taspi is going to be mentioning what that exactly is.
Hello friends. Like Nadira said, I'm going to be explaining what the topic is about. The topic is called the royal family and we're going to be talking about the royal family.
Yeah. So before we get into that, we just want to mention that of course we're going to be talking about the British royal family because we live in Britain. But that isn't to say that we don't acknowledge all of the other amazing histories about different types of royal families around the world. Isn't that right, Taspi?
Yes. It's also good to know about all of the royal family and their history.
Yeah, because there's so many different influential characters, right?
Yeah, and amazing things that happen to them.
So before we get started, I see we have Flora with us.
Hello everyone.
Hi Flora, how are you?
I'm wonderful.
So Flora, are you excited to learn about the British royal family?
Why wouldn't I be? Well, I am.
So Flora, what's one of your favorite things about the royal family?
Well, that they have dogs.
Oh, yeah, they do. They actually have 30 plus dogs. So lots of dogs in their family.
What did you do today, Flora? I went to the park and played with a frisbee. Why do you think the royal family is important? I think they are important because they help the country.
Yeah, they do help the country. They help it very, very much.
What do you think is the best part of being a dog in the royal family? I think the best part is that you get all the luxury that other dogs don't get.
That's true.
I mean, I had that luxury.
All the dogs live in the palace. They have such big open gardens to play in, so it's very nice.
And luxury.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Flora, for your insight about the royal family. I found it very informative. What about you, Taspi? Do you like the royal family?
Of course.
And I really enjoy the royal family as well. I think that they're very important. They symbolize a lot about the British culture and the values that we hold today. So, what are some of your favorite royal family members?
Queen Elizabeth II.
Actually, her name is quite long. It's actually Elizabeth Alexander Mary.
Oh,
So
wow.
she has 3 names, but we always say Elizabeth II just to shorten it.
What about you, Nadira?
I would say my favorite royal family members are either Meghan Markle or Kate Middleton. I like both of them. I think they're very modern, and I also really love their fashion sense. I think it's really nice. So, have you ever visited the palace before?
Yeah, my mum has though. I haven't, but I have driven past it.
Oh, I was actually meant to visit the palace. I was meant to go to an award ceremony, but unfortunately because of the COVID pandemic that was rescheduled. So hopefully in the future I will.
What makes the British royal family so influential?
Influential, yeah. So I think that the reason why they're so influential is because they've been around for so long. Actually, the first ever king of England was around 1,200 years ago. So that's a very long time. So obviously during that time period, there's so many people that have influenced the country and obviously the world as well. So Taspi, what makes the British royal family so influential in your opinion?
Well, they're very... I don't know how to explain it, because they do a lot to help the country.
Yeah, and there's so many royal family members, all of them help as well.
Yeah, and they do amazing things as well.
So, do you remember any important recent events that happened within the royal family?
Well, I remember that
Are you...
some people from the royal family left.
Yeah, so that's actually Harry and Meghan. They both left. They were obviously recently got married as well. That was a very important date for the royal family.
Have you met the royal family?
Yes, I have met the royal family. I remember doing a huge charity event for the Duke of Edinburgh Diamond Challenge, and that's because that specific charity has been around for over 60 years. And so I had to climb the equivalent height of the Shard, and that was 310 meters, and that was quite difficult, but I did really enjoy it, and I got to meet Prince Edward.
Can you show us some things that you have brought with the royal family?
Yeah, of course. So I have two things that I brought. I have this mug, and actually this mug was representing the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, and that was in 2012 in June.
Oh.
Yeah, so actually you weren't even born during that time period.
Yeah.
So
I was in my mom's time.
Yeah, you were. So this is actually quite a long while ago. I still have the mug because I really enjoyed the fun fair that I had in my primary school about the Diamond Jubilee. So that was really nice. And also, as well as the mug, I remember buying this little tray. And this has the Queen Elizabeth II on it. And it's just a little tea tray. And I think it's really, really nice.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, our crowns match. They look like kind of the same, except for mine's a tiara and hers is a crown.
Oh yeah, that's true. Both of them are silver. They obviously are very jeweled, and it's very nice. I really like your tiara. I think it's really nice. It represents the royalty.
What is the purpose of the royal family?
I think the purpose of the royal family really is just to maintain order in society. I think it's one of the easiest ways to ensure that there is power distributed properly. So obviously in the royal family situation they have the most amount of power and they represent everybody else. So that's one of the ways that the monarchy maintain power. So what about you? Do you like the royal family, and what are some of the key members of the royal family that you like?
Yeah, I do like the royal family, and the key members that I like is, like I mentioned, Queen Elizabeth II and Queen Victoria.
Yeah, so actually both of them were very important because they've been the Queen for so long, right?
Yeah. Queen Elizabeth is the longest, and then Queen Victoria.
Yeah, so Queen Elizabeth, obviously she's still alive today, and that's why. So she has been reigning as the Queen for 67 years, and she's going to be ruling for 68 this year in June.
Wow.
Yeah. So I believe that Queen Victoria, obviously she's the second one, and obviously that means that Queen Elizabeth II passed her.
Yeah.
So how do you think the British royal family help the country, and can you give any examples?
Well, they keep everything in order, and that's to make sure that nothing bad happens in the country.
Yeah, and actually the royal family had a lot more political power in the past, but then with the influence and the bringing of prime ministers, they both worked together to maintain the country.
Why do you think learning about the royal family is so important?
Well, I would say one of the biggest reasons why everyone, in my opinion, should learn about the royal family is because they're so important in understanding the history of that country. So if we didn't know anything about Queen Victoria or King Edward, then we wouldn't understand really why they made certain decisions in their past.
What great things have they done?
Yeah, and how did that impact the society or the people of that particular country, so of England. Actually, one of the easiest ways to know why they're important is because that time period they were alive is named after them. Like if we think about the Edwardian era or the Victorian age, you know? So obviously the royal family, they're one of the most important members of society, and so they obviously impact history a lot. So, what about you, Tasbi? Do you know who is next in line to the throne?
Yes, Prince Charles.
Yeah, so actually the way the royal family works is that it's normally the eldest child, often the boy or the male. But nowadays, actually, what they're doing is they changed it ever since Princess Charlotte was born. And they said that if you're a girl, you can maintain your position in the royal family tree and not get knocked down if you have a younger brother, for instance, that gets born.
Like Queen Elizabeth II.
Yeah, so
like very long reign.
Yeah, exactly. So, what are some of the Queen's key responsibilities, Tusby?
Well, she has to have a meeting with the Prime Minister.
Yeah, she actually has that every week. So she obviously does have a very close relationship with all of the Prime Ministers.
Yeah. Like I said, to make sure everything's in order.
Mm-hmm.
What made the British royal family so well known?
Well, I think one of the main reasons why they're so well known is, one, because they were around for so long, as I said, but also because they had so much influence in things like the music, in things like the literature, and for instance, King Henry VIII, he wrote the very famous Greensleeves. And so that piece of music has been, you know, widely spread and so well known that, you know, these key things obviously help us remember the royal family members.
Yeah, I remember everyone.
Mm-hmm. So,
why is the British royal family so influential?
I think the British royal family is so influential because of the fact that they obviously, Britain was an empire, and they went all around the world. And
like America.
Yeah, kind of like America, although America was actually a colony as well of the British Empire. And so lots of things that the British did obviously impacted the world. And so the world was obviously very aware of Britain, and that's why maybe perhaps we know a lot about the British royal family. Yeah,
we try to learn more about them.
Mm-hmm.
Who are some of the key historical royal family members, and why are they so famous?
Well, I think one of the key, or at least in my opinion, one of my favorite ones is King Henry VIII. He was a very tyrannical, in some sense you could say, a king, and also he actually changed the religion of Britain. So originally it was under Catholicism, which was impacted by the Romans, but he decided that he wanted to get a divorce from his wife, and under Catholicism that wasn't allowed. So he decided that he would want to reform the country and create the Church of England. And we still have that today. So obviously, because of his actions, that's why we live in today's society and we have the Church of England today.
What are some of the rules that the British royal family has to follow?
Well, I would say some of the rules can be quite particular. I think it's quite difficult to be a member of the royal family. For instance, you always have to speak very politely, and actually even the way you sit is considered very important as well. Like for instance, there's a sitting position called the Duchess stance, and what that is you have to spread your legs and put them to an angle, and then that makes sure that your skirt is very nicely shown if you are ever speaking in front of a camera. So because of that, those small things, it makes it very difficult. Or maybe there's lots of things you need to keep in mind if you're a royal family member.
Yeah.
Because imagine having to make sure the way you're sitting, the way you're speaking, you know, all those things are quite difficult to do, isn't it?
It's very difficult, and ruling over the whole country, you might have very important duties to do, and it might take a long time to do them, and you might not be able to finish them all in one day.
Yeah, I think it's quite hard to adjust to some of these strict rules.
You might not even have your personal time.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, for instance, when Kate Middleton or Meghan Markle became, when they were married into the royal family, they obviously had to adjust to lots of different things, right? All these rules, you know?
Yeah.
So, Tusby, how do you think that the British royal family has changed over time?
Well, before, in the past, media wasn't allowed to broadcast videos of royal.
Oh yeah, that's very true. Actually, Prince Philip was the one that tried to push for the fact that, you know, we should have media attention on the royal family for specific events like the Queen's coronation.
Bye everyone, we're going to be back after our break. See you after a break. Bye!
Bye!
Hello friends, welcome back after the break. In this segment, we usually read books. So we're going to be reading books.
Yeah, so Tusby, which book would you like to read?
I'd like to read this book,
Ooh.
but before I read that book, I want to read something that I wrote.
Okay, what did you write?
I wrote, this is when I was very young, and I wrote an article in the newspaper.
Ooh.
Not the real
Yeah, so it's
newspaper.
just your own article. That's fine. Let's hear it.
Lizard Street Times. Bomb. A shocking discovery was made on Wednesday, the 18th of July at 4 o'clock by Corky Pigeon. He was playing at a dump and found a bomb. Corky just came back from school and he wanted to play in a big dump when he saw something round, and Corky Pigeon jumped on it. When Mrs. Bong said, "Don't move," he listened. She said to us, "I saw it all happen." Corky Pigeon said, "I was terrified," and Corky Pigeon was scared, so he stood still for a long time. Then Mr. Bong called some bomb experts and the bomb got defused. Then Mr. Gold gave a medal to Corky Pigeon and Lizard Street was back to normal.
Oh, I really like that piece of writing. Thank you, Tusby.
Now I'm going to read my book. I'm going to read Queen Elizabeth I.
Okay.
Once upon a time, there was a king who wanted to leave his kingdom to a son. When his wife gave birth to a daughter, King Henry VIII was so mad that he left her, sent the child away, and married another woman.
Oh.
He believed that only a man would be able to rule the country after he died, and was delighted when his new wife gave birth to a boy, Edward. Henry's daughter, Elizabeth, grew up a bright and brilliant girl with striking red hair and a fiery temper. Edward was only 9 when his father died and he became king. A few years later, he also became ill and died, and his sister Mary became queen. Mary thought that Elizabeth was plotting against her, so she locked Elizabeth up in the Tower of London.
Wow.
One day the tower guards burst into her cell. "The Queen is dead," they announced, and then they fell to their knees in front of her. Elizabeth instantly went from being a prisoner in the tower to the country's new queen. Elizabeth's court was home to magicians, poets, painters, and playwrights. The most famous was William Shakespeare, who plays Elizabeth, adored. She wore sumptuous gowns decorated with pearls and lace. She never married. She valued her own independence as highly as that of her country. Her people loved her dearly, and when she died, Londoners took the streets to mourn the greatest queen they ever had.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Tusby.
You're welcome. It was about Queen Elizabeth I.
Yeah, I think that she's very inspirational. You know, her father, obviously King Henry VIII, he didn't think that she was fit to be a ruler because she was a woman. But actually, she then ended up being queen.
Yeah.
And she did a great job.
Yeah. and she wanted to show everyone what she could do on her own.
Yeah.
That's why she didn't get married.
Yeah, exactly. But because at the time when you got married, obviously then the power would be then placed onto your husband. And so that's why she didn't get married.
Nadira, what book would you like to read?
I would like to read this book, but before we do, I have something to show the audience. So this is a leaflet or kind of a booklet about the Battle of Waterloo.
Oh, wow.
So Waterloo, even though there's a station in London called Waterloo, there's actually a place in France called Waterloo as well. So the Battle of Waterloo happened because of Napoleon. And actually, this battle was after the fact that the French Revolution happened. And in the French Revolution, the French king, so King Louis III, he was executed by his people, and there was a revolution to stop the monarchy. So afterwards, there was the Battle of Waterloo that happened as well following that.
Oh.
So I think this battle kind of highlights the fact that there was a lot of tensions, at least in France, about the monarchy. And actually, even the British also helped this war happen. Actually, Prince George was the person that was representing Britain and made lots of important decisions about the war.
They must really care about the money.
Yeah, they did, and that's why they were involved in the Battle of Waterloo. So I find that really interesting. I think that obviously back in the past, the royal family made so many important decisions, especially about war.
Yeah. War it's not a reason. It's not good. It's not good for the environment.
I think sometimes, or at least in this situation, the war is necessary. Sometimes,
Yeah,
like
sometimes, but not all the time. Luckily, wars don't happen all the time.
Yeah, thankfully. Now let's read a part of this book. So this is called Children's British History Encyclopedia. And like I mentioned before, if we know a little bit about the royal family at the time, then we'll be able to understand the history of that time. So, Edward V and Queen Mary. Henry VIII died in 1547. He was hugely fat and in great pain from ulcers. His long reign had ended sadly, with the terrible waste of men and money in his last expedition to France. Mary made herself even more unpopular by marrying her cousin Philip, the heir to the throne of Spain. Philip became a joint ruler, so now that England was aligned with the leading Catholic power. There was an uprising in Kent, and England was forced to join Spain in the war against France. During this conflict, the French captured Calais, and the last English stronghold in Europe. So that's very interesting, isn't it? They went to war. It's very, very sad.
And very violent again.
Yeah. Let's read another part. How about King Henry VIII?
Wow.
So King Henry VIII was a very unpopular king because he taxed people very heavily. When he died in 1509, there was a general rejoicing. The new king, King Henry VIII, was very different from his father. He was very tall and handsome and full of energy. He had a large appetite and was immensely fond of both food and drink. I find this quite funny because obviously King Henry VIII was heavily obese, quite fat as well. But at the time, obviously, they wanted to celebrate obviously the king, so they always painted him. I don't know if you've ever seen paintings of the royal family, but they always painted him to look very handsome and tall, when in actuality, maybe he wasn't actually like that. They obviously tried to make him look better than he actually was. And at the time then, being bigger was a good sign because it showed that you had lots of food available, so you weren't poor.
Ah.
Yet Henry only became king by accident. His elder brother Arthur had been the heir to the throne, but he died young. So Prince Henry took over Arthur's place and married his widow, the Spanish princess of Catherine of Aragon. That's a bit weird, isn't it, to marry your brother's wife, or at least your dead brother's wife. It's a bit weird. Obviously, it's a completely different time. Henry was determined to win glory in war. In 1513, he led the army to France. The expedition wasted a lot of money and gained very little. Meanwhile, the English army stopped an invasion from Scotland to the Battle of Flodden. Bored by the daily running of government, Henry left most his work to his Lord Chancellor, Thomas Wolsey. The king preferred to spend his time hunting, jousting, and playing music. So that's similar to like what we said before. King Henry VIII really loved playing music and also hunting and jousting, so that's like fighting.
Wow.
So perhaps he preferred to do more of his hobbies than actually ruling, because he gave it to the Lord Chancellor.
Very responsible.
I mean, I guess that's why King Henry VIII is very well known. He did lots of things that, you know, were controversial.
Yeah, like I said in my book.
Yeah, exactly. There were only one thing that Henry desperately wanted: a son, to become king after him. Queen Catherine of Aragon became pregnant 4 times, but all the babies were boys, and none of them survived longer than a few weeks. In 1516, Catherine bore a daughter, and her name was Mary. In 1526, Henry fell in love with Anne Boleyn, who then recently came to his court. But Anne would not be able to be his mistress. She wanted Henry to divorce Catherine first. The king ordered his chancellor, Thomas Wolsey, to arrange for the Pope to agree to the divorce. So just like how we said, King Henry VIII wanted to obviously get married again. He wanted to marry another woman, but his religion, Catholicism, didn't allow it. So that's why there was a huge reformation in religion within Britain.
There must have been a big problem at that time.
Yeah, actually a lot of people didn't like that, because he didn't necessarily need to marry Anne Boleyn, because he was already married to Catherine of Aragon.
It's not nice to get a divorce.
Actually, King Henry VIII had 6 wives, and 3 of them died, and I believe 2 of them were also divorced, as well as 1 only surviving.
Wow.
Yes, that's very insane. So thank you so much for listening to some of these books. I hope you gained a lot of information from them. So bye. We'll see you in the next segment.
Bye.
And welcome back to the 3rd and final segment of our show. So today, like normal, we have our guest with us. Her name is Tracy Rogers. Hi, Tracy.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi, everyone. Yes, not too bad.
So, Tracy, how are you doing, and how is your family during lockdown?
Like everybody else, I think it's very difficult not being able to be face-to-face with your family, your friends. But we're getting through it, keeping busy, running a food bank.
That's good. What about you, Taspi?
What do you like to do in your free time?
At the moment, in my spare time, I'm running a food bank for our local community. So that's taken up the majority of my time, and also doing Duke of Edinburgh's Award with our students online.
Yeah. So, Tracy, can you tell us a little bit more about your family?
Yes, I live with my husband. We're married 25 years this year.
Wow.
And we have 1 daughter who's 22, and we've just got a new addition to our family, which is a 5-month-old puppy called Poppy.
Oh, that's sweet.
Do you and your family have the same interest?
Yes, funnily you should say that. Yes, we all like going outdoors. So we're scouts. If you ever heard of the Scout Association, we're all scouts, and we also work with the Duke of Edinburgh's Award together.
So, Tracy, how long have you been doing your current job then?
My current job at Leighton Sixth Form College, I've been doing for 18 years.
Wow, that is a very long time.
That's older than you.
Yeah, wow. So, Tracy, do you have any memorable experiences about your work or what you've done while you had this job?
Yes, I get to meet a lot of the royal family. And Prince Edward came to the college just to check us out and see what we were doing, because we're the largest college in London that runs the Duke of Edinburgh's Awards. So, yeah, he came to visit us.
Wow, that's amazing.
What's the best thing about your work?
I think the best thing about it is I work with young people, so that keeps me young. And also, it gets me out into the countryside, so I climb mountains a lot, and I do a lot of camping.
Oh, that must be great.
How has lockdown impacted your work?
Well, at the moment, you can imagine we can't go camping, so I'm stuck indoors a lot. We're not allowed to do expedition, so we can't meet up as a group, and we can't do our expeditions. So that's really had a large impact in what I do at the moment.
Describe how your work helps young people.
Yes. Well, a lot of young people tend to have a lot of study to do, and you have a lot of exams to take and things like that. What I try to do is work with young people to make it enjoyable and fun.
Yeah.
And one of the things we do is take them out and do activities with their friends and give them skills. We call them soft skills, and they're things like leadership, teamwork, and things like that.
I think that's really important, because sometimes in academics you don't actually get taught how to work as a team or how to be a leader, but Tracy obviously helps young people develop those skills.
Yeah, that's really good, because you learn new skills and you learn how to do things by yourself.
Yeah.
And I think working as a team.
Yeah, and I think we spoke about this previously in another episode, but there's a key difference between learning and education, and you need both of them to be a well-rounded individual. Right, so there's certain things that you can't necessarily learn through academics. So Tracy, obviously you've worked a lot with young people, and you've met the royal family. Can you tell us a few times or a few examples of the palaces that you've been to in Britain?
The palaces, well, I've been to Buckingham Palace quite a number of times to meet the royal family. I've also been to St James's Palace. That's a smaller palace to the right of Buckingham Palace, and Windsor Castle. That's one of my favourites.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Then you've gone to multiple palaces.
Yeah, lots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who is your favourite member of the royal family, and why?
Well, of course, I do like William. Everybody likes William. But I would say my favourite one is Prince Edward. Now, Prince Edward's not very well known. He's the fourth child of the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. And I'd say he works really, really hard for young people. And I would say he's my favourite.
Oh, wow, that's actually very similar, because I've met Prince Edward through my charity event that I did. So actually he does obviously support young people a lot and does attend the different charity events that they do. So why do you think the royal family is important then?
Well, if you look at a lot of charities, the royal family tend to lead those charities. And I think they spend a lot of time volunteering, helping charities get in the press, in the papers, and it's really valuable for charities to have patrons like members of the royal family.
Yeah.
Do you keep up with news about the royal family?
Well, I'm not a stalker or anything like that, but I tend to, if they're on the news or if they're in the papers, then I'll always check out and how they're doing. Yes.
So Tracy, since you've gone to the palace, how was your visit there, and how was meeting the royal family? Were you scared?
I think you're always scared, no matter how many times you go, because you don't want to say the wrong thing, and you get very, very nervous and tongue-tied. So the very, very first time I met the Queen, and I'm going back a few years ago now, my daughter was with me, and you know, she said, "Well, where do you come from?" And my daughter said, "London," and she went, "Oh, where do they come from?" And I just repeated exactly what she said and said London instead of exactly Waltham Forest. So yes, it's very embarrassing, and I do get a bit tongue-tied sometimes.
So we have a few pictures of Tracy meeting the royal family and being in the palace, so we would love to see them.
I'm not going to ask any more questions.
Wow! So Tracy's in the middle there. And let's see the next photo.
Okay.
So that must be the Queen, and
With flower bouquet.
yeah, with a flower. And that's Tracy there.
On the right.
Yeah.
And then Tracy's there again.
With lots of people holding awards.
Yeah.
So those photos was really, really nice. Didn't you like them, Tasbih?
Yeah, I love them, seeing different people.
Yeah. And actually, you one of the photos was in the garden. Is that right, Tracy?
Yes, Buckingham Palace, the back garden, the Queen's garden. And of course, everybody gets dressed up, so you're all in dresses or suits.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff like
true.
that.
I mean, I would want to get dressed up as well if I was there.
Yeah, just up like kind of like me right now.
Yeah. So Tracy, how does the royal family and their charities help young people in particular?
Well, they have always supported young charities, and the one that I'm mostly involved with is the Duke of Edinburgh's award. So that's when he comes to, the Prince Edward comes to visit and help. So they go and meet young people. They talk about their, their problems, their issues, and tend to help and support in many ways, raising funds as well as taking pictures of young people with the royals.
Yeah. And actually, the Duke of Edinburgh Award as a charity is international. Everybody globally can participate in that charity as well.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about the history of the Duke of Edinburgh and how that was founded?
Yes, well, it's 65 years this year that the Duke of Edinburgh's award started. And it started when the Duke of Edinburgh, who is the Queen's husband, wanted to get young men out into the countryside and be active and be a member of their local community. So he started the charity, and it has 4 sections. And then 2 years later, he introduced it to the females because they were complaining that they didn't have the fun that the young men were getting. So in 2 years after that, he started it as a for the young girls as well as the males.
Yeah, I think that's really important for both the boys and the girls who obviously all young people should have the same opportunities, right?
Yeah, they should all get what they want.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering our questions, and now it's time for our quiz.
Yeah, it's time for the quiz. So we'll be asking you multiple choice questions all about the royal family and their history. So good luck for the quiz, Tracy.
Okay. What country did Princess Diana die in? Option 1, England. Option 2, France. Option 3, Spain.
It was definitely France.
That's correct.
That's correct, yeah. So Princess Diana died in Paris in particular, and unfortunately she died at the age of 36. Yeah, so she didn't live very long. So, when was the TV show The Crown, which is about the royal family, first released on Netflix? So, was it in 2016, 2017, or 2019?
Oh crumbs! I watch that all the time as well. I'm just on the last episode of the current series. I'd probably go for the first one because it's been going for a while now, hasn't it? And it's about four seasons in. So let's try 2016.
Yeah, that's right.
Correct. Wow.
Actually, that's a good way of measuring when it was released, depending on how many seasons it was. So, good job.
Well done so far. Okay. How much money does the royal family make for Britain as a result of tourism to different castles across the country? Option 1, 430 million pounds, 460 million pounds, or 550 million pounds.
It's a lot of money, even if it's a small amount.
Yeah.
I'd like to think it was the bigger one because they do bring a lot of tourism, and especially over the last few years with the weddings that we've had. So let's go sky high. Let's go for the 550 million.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Good job. What year did Queen Elizabeth II get married to Prince Philip? 1939, 1945, or 1947?
Now, I think they were married before she became queen. Am I right? So I think I'll try for 1947.
Correct.
Yeah, that's right. Good job. So actually, originally they first met in a different wedding in 1943 when Princess Elizabeth was only 8 years old.
Yeah. That was very young age. How much money was Kate Middleton's wedding dress? Option 1, 200 million, 250 million, or 300 million?
Million. Let's go middle. I'm not sure about this one.
Okay. Do you have any guesses?
250.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So actually, all of those options just highlight how expensive the dress actually was. So that's all that we have for the questions. There's one more question. Which of the following wives did King Henry VIII actually survive? So Catherine Howard, Anne Boleyn, or Catherine Parr?
Oh, I know that one because there's a rhyme that goes with it for you to choose which one you win, I think. And I'm going to go for Catherine.
That's
Catherine
correct.
Correct. Wow, I think you got all of them correct.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Tracy, for being on our show. You did really well on the quiz, and I learnt so much from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Bye everyone. See you in the next episode.
Bye.